I can do. Keep going.
Mike Tyson once stood at the center of the world, fists clenched, eyes burning, carrying a power so terrifying it made grown men doubt themselves before the bell ever rang. He was not just a boxer, he was a phenomenon, a force of nature forged in pain, hunger, and survival. But behind the championships, the knockouts, and the myth of invincibility lies a story that is far more heartbreaking than anyone ever imagined. At the height of fame, Mike Tyson had everything the world could offer. And yet at every stage of his life, something priceless kept slipping through his fingers. This is the story of how the most feared champion in boxing history became one of its most tragic figures. Mike Tyson's story begins not with glory, but with struggle. Born into poverty in Brooklyn, New York, he grew up surrounded by violence, instability, and fear. His childhood was marked by crime-filled streets and a constant fight for survival. Small in stature but explosive in emotion, Mike learned early that anger could be both a shield and a weapon. He was bullied, beaten, and pushed to the margins of society until rage became the only language he knew. By the time he was a teenager, he was already colliding with the justice system, drifting toward a future that seemed destined for destruction. Everything changed the day he walked into a boxing gym and met Cus D'Amato. Cus did not just see a troubled boy, he saw a diamond buried beneath chaos. He became Mike's mentor, guardian, and father figure. Under Cus's guidance, Mike was taught discipline, structure, and belief. Boxing was no longer an outlet for rage. It became a science, a craft, a path toward purpose. Cus didn't just train Mike's body, he rewired his mind, convincing him that fear could be controlled and greatness could be earned. For the first time in his life, Mike Tyson felt seen, protected, and guided. What followed was historic. Mike Tyson exploded onto the boxing scene like nothing anyone had ever witnessed. He was fast, brutal, precise, and relentless. At just 20 years old, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Opponents fell within seconds. Crowds roared. The world watched in awe and fear. Tyson wasn't just winning, he was dominating. His name became synonymous with terror in the ring. He was crowned the baddest man on the planet, and for a brief moment, it felt like nothing could touch him. But tragedy has a way of waiting patiently. When Cus D'Amato died, Mike lost more than a trainer. He lost his anchor. Without Cus's discipline and guidance, the fame rushed in unchecked. Money, excess, temptation, and enablers surrounded him. The structure that once kept his demons at bay began to crumble. Mike was still winning fights, but inside, he was unraveling. The anger returned. The loneliness deepened. The hunger that once fueled greatness turned into a void nothing could fill. As his career continued, cracks began to show. Relationships collapsed. Trust eroded. His behavior grew erratic. The world that once cheered him began to judge him. Then came the scandals, the legal troubles, and the moments that permanently altered public perception. The conviction, the time away from boxing, the loss of respect. It all came crashing down. The man who once ruled the heavyweight division was suddenly stripped of everything that defined him. Titles vanished, endorsements disappeared, and the roar of the crowd was replaced with silence. When Mike returned to boxing, he was no longer the unstoppable force he once was. The fire still burned, but it flickered unpredictably. The infamous moments, the bite, the disqualifications, became symbols of a man overwhelmed by his own emotions. Fans were confused, critics were harsh, and Mike, trapped between his past glory and present pain, struggled to find balance. He was fighting opponents in the ring, but the real battles were happening inside his mind. Retirement did not bring peace. Financial ruin followed. Despite earning hundreds of millions, Mike found himself drowning in debt. Lawsuits, poor decisions, and misplaced trust took their toll. The empire he built collapsed. Fame faded, and for a long time, Mike Tyson was left alone with the consequences of a life lived at full speed without breaks. The tragedy was not that he lost money or titles. It was that he never learned how to live without chaos. Yet even in the depths of despair, something remarkable happened. Mike began to reflect, to confront his past, to acknowledge his mistakes. Through therapy, self-examination, and raw honesty, he started rebuilding himself. Not as a boxer, but as a human being. He spoke openly about trauma, addiction, and mental health. He admitted his flaws without excuses. For the first time, he wasn't trying to be feared. He was trying to be understood. At 59, Mike Tyson stands as a man forever tied to greatness and tragedy. His body bears the scars of war. His legacy is complicated, powerful, and impossible to ignore. He is remembered for devastating knockouts, shocking controversies, and a rise and fall that mirrors a Greek tragedy. But beyond the headlines lies a deeper truth. A boy who was never taught how to be safe, a champion who was never taught how to slow down, and a man who spent most of his life fighting the world because he never learned how to fight his pain. Mike Tyson's story is beyond heartbreaking, not because of what he lost, but because of what he never truly had: peace. His life reminds us that talent without guidance can self-destruct, that fame without foundation can destroy, and that even the strongest men can be fragile inside. He is a cautionary tale and a symbol of resilience all at once. A man who fell hard, stood back up, and continues to search for redemption in a world that still struggles to understand him. Thank you for watching this emotional journey into the life and tragedy of Mike Tyson. If you want more powerful stories about legends, loss, and the human cost of greatness, make sure you subscribe for more.